Welcome to the press conference of 8th Governing Council meeting of Niti Aayog. We welcome at PIB the entire Aayog here. Shri Suman Beri, Chair of Niti, members Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Professor Rameshan, Dr. V.K. Paul, Dr. Arvind Virmani, and CEO Mr. B.V.R. Subramaniam. That's how we will proceed. First, I'll invite Vice Chair to give you opening remarks, and then he will invite others to elaborate on various aspects of the meeting today. Shri Suman Beri, Vice Chair.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. I will just make a few opening remarks. We are here because today at Pragati Maidan, we had the 8th meeting of Niti Aayog's Governing Council. Represented on the Governing Council are all states and union territories, certain ex officio members of the union government, and certain special invitees of the union government, depending on the themes being discussed, and of course my respected colleagues, members, and CEO. This meeting was unusual in 3 respects, I would say. First, that it was held at Pragati Maidan. To my knowledge, it's the first formal event that took place in the hall that will be used for the G20 summit in September. Second, because, and linked to that is that this meeting was taking place in the year of India's G20 presidency, and that had an impact on the discussions. But the third and most important was the choice of theme, which was Viksit Bharat at 2047. Those of you who were here last year would recall that that meeting took place on August the 7th, and in some ways the great national debate on Viksit Bharat and the Amrit Kal really got going on August 15th when Honorable Prime Minister spoke from the ramparts of the Red Fort. But let me, at this point, just request CEO Shri B.V.R. Subramaniam to pick up the thread on the themes that were discussed and some of the guidance we got from Honorable PM.
Thank you, Dr. Beri. As he has mentioned, this is the 8th meeting of the Governing Council of Niti Aayog. It's almost held every year. I think it skipped one particular year because there were COVID and other issues, but we held that on VC. Again, as Dr. Beri has said, this was held in Pragati Maidan for the first time. So the first time that the convention center was being used, and I'm sure as and when the pictures of the meeting are released, you will see it's a very grand structure. The third is, what was the theme? The theme was Viksit Bharat. And I think it's important. Why was the theme chosen? As VC has said, last 15th of August is when the Prime Minister gave the call that India should be prepared for the next 25 years. This is the Amrit Kal. And at the end of the Amrit Kal, Bharat ek Viksit Desh banega. We will be a developed nation in the next 25 years. And why is Viksit Bharat so important at this point? It is important because India is at a takeoff moment. And what is the takeoff moment? We are not only the largest country by population, which we just probably crossed in the month of April by some estimates, we are also the world's 5th largest economy. But if you look at it, the 5th is going to become 3rd in a couple of years. 2, demography is in our favor, not just in terms of total numbers of people, but also in terms of the number of youthful people. India has about 20% of the world's working age population in a couple of years, and it is going to be the largest provider of working age people for the next 20 years or so. Our average age, or the median age of our population, is between 28 and 29. Just for comparison, in our neighborhood, the average age is about 39. So that shows the kind of lead we have, and this population is going to be reasonably youthful for a while. The time has come for India to utilize this opportunity. Countries which have crossed this particular level of development actually then go through a rapid period of sustained high-speed growth if the correct things are done. So we actually have a 20-25-year period where if we do the right things and do things the right way, then the country can actually meet its aspirational goals. There are other things which are going for India. Digitization is very high in the country. The world actually looks towards Digital India, as the Prime Minister said in the meeting. He said, I've just come back from foreign tours, and then the amount of interest that is there on the kind of activity that is happening in India on the digital front is something which is actually stunning the rest of the world, and they're looking at us with amazement. In addition to that, we're a highly entrepreneurial economy. I mean, we have the world's third largest startup ecosystem. There are almost over 90,000 startups which DPIT has got on their records, and we have over 100 unicorns. So given our aspirational population, given the demographics, given GDP which is there at this point, given that we're on the last mile in terms of resolving a lot of basic access issues like Sadak, Bijli, Pani, we are at a point where we actually now move from basics to actually going towards development. So I think that was the theme. The second is the whole world is looking at India. And that's what the Prime Minister emphasized multiple times, that this is an opportunity for us to grab. And he mentioned that to all the chief ministers, saying that go and grab the opportunity that is there. And he has emphasized that India grows when states grow. I think that captures why Viksit Bharat becomes relevant to states. Because bulk of the action to become Viksit Bharat is at the state level, be it industries, be it electricity, be it water supply, be it skill development, be it education, be it health, everything is in the states. So I think that's where an organization like Niti Aayog plays a very good role, and that's what the Governing Council is all about. It is a platform where the center, states, union territories sit together, discuss their developmental experiences, look at the long term, exchange notes, and try to align their goals and their plans and strategies so that we all achieve collective goals. In his opening remarks, the Prime Minister did talk about a large number of things. He said that all the people in the room have a collective responsibility to fulfill the aspirations of 140 crore people. We need to have a common vision and we need to have a strategy. The aspiration of Viksit Bharat is not an individual's, not a small group's vision. It is a vision of the people of India, which we all will have to conceive and fulfill. He also mentioned about the successful manner in which the center and states have cooperated in a couple of programs. He mentioned the aspirational district program, which is actually run at Niti Aayog, where about 112 districts, which otherwise are backward in indicators, have been identified, and states have worked to actually pull up those districts on indicators. And he also referred to a program which we are about to launch, launched by the Prime Minister formally, which is aspirational block program, taking development down further. 500 blocks in the country have been picked up because of poor socio-economic indicators, and to again give the same kind of focused attention. And again, beautiful words from the Prime Minister that you raise the level of those blocks to the state average, automatically the state average will also rise, and then the national average will rise. Then we went on to a large number of things. The meeting itself had 8 themes. Viksit Bharat was one, which is the overarching theme. There were 6 sub-themes which were there, which were identified. We had themes like ease of doing business and reducing the burden of compliances. Health was there, skills was discussed, MSMEs were discussed, infrastructure and investment were discussed, women empowerment was discussed, and application of PM Gati Shakti. PM Gati Shakti actually is quite familiar. It's been in the news for a while, but this is PM Gati Shakti with a slightly different tilt. It is being expanded further. It already has got about 1,600 layers which are already there. This is using PM Gati Shakti for social infrastructure and area development. That means, where do you locate schools? Where do you locate health facilities? Where do you locate social infrastructure? Area development in terms of, if you want to locate, there is a program of the Cooperative Ministry of having local godowns for food grains and other local produce. Where do you want to locate it? You will have to see what is the catchment area. So Gati Shakti to be used so that it can be, the planning can be better. The Prime Minister also emphasized the importance of Amrit Sarovar. He complimented the states, Amrit Sarovar. There are 50,000, over 50,000 Amrit Sarovars that have been built. But he said, why should we rest with 50,000? If you have 75 Amrit Sarovars per district, make it 75 per block. So it actually is water conservation. In a country like India, water conservation is essential wherever there is water stress. He also emphasized the importance of fiscal discipline. We should not be profligate. Funds should be used judiciously, and we also should see that our future generations are not overburdened. And I think he also gave the examples, saying many countries in the world who have been fiscally imprudent are suffering the consequences, and he said we should all behave responsibly when we are doing this. He also covered a large number of other areas which are very, very close to his heart. He talked about Swachhata, he talked about vibrant villages which are there near the borders and how they should be given special attention. He also spoke about taking a competitive approach even at the state level, having state level competitions for between districts, between villages, so pratispardha, so that there is an element of reward for doing good work hierarchically right through the system. And after the Prime Minister's opening remarks, I think there was a broad-based discussion on the agenda items. All the chief ministers, the lieutenant governors, and the administrator, they spoke about the agenda items. A large number of topics were touched. I do not want to go into the detail because it's a very long list. Large portion of the discussion was on the 8 items in the agenda. Chief ministers talked about their visions of Amrit Kal, what India should do to achieve 2047. They also talked about the core 6 items and some themes, and some chief ministers talked about how they were using PM Gati Shakti in their own states or union territories. Some of them have gone quite far ahead in using them. In addition to these, there is some other issues. Some states spoke about their development models. There were a discussion on green strategies. Some states are actually trying to become models in terms of green development. They also were talking about zone-wise planning, improving tourism, improving employment through tourism. Skill development was something which was very close because skill also impacts quality. There was a lot of discussion on why the nation needs to be known to be a quality nation and how it helps. There were discussions on agriculture, logistics, a whole host of things, very, very rich. And I think a very nice word which was used in the conclusion was bahut hi mangalmay वातावरण में बातचीत हुई, which was very nice because it was so harmonious, and there was a lot of discussion going on in the room on how things have to be done. So I think that was the atmosphere. In the end, in his concluding remarks, again, the PM was quite eloquent. He complimented the states on what they have done, and he also referred to some of the things they could do more and do better. He talked about everything that the chief ministers have said or given in their speeches would be followed up. He was also very emphatic that the G20 is not a one-off. He said most states have now been exposed internationally, and they have also learned what it is to be exposed to international visitors. Please prepare action plans, was his request to states, to follow up on the G20 so that, you either become major exporting areas, exporting products, or promoting tourism. So there is a give and take in G20, so he was asking them to follow up on that. He also emphasized one thing, because the theme is Viksit Bharat. He said, I think it is essential that you can't have a vision only at the national level. You need to have visions at the state and district levels. I think that's the key message. If there is one big takeaway which comes out of this, he said very, very clearly that हर state में एक team को गठित करिए, ये team बहुत ही सक्षम team होना चाहिए, and they can work with Niti. They should focus long term. Every state and local area should have a vision for the next 25 years, and they can work closely with the center. He said, let us share the burden so that we work collectively toward this vision of 2047. We should go for the big jump. We are not looking at incremental improvements. And I think that's the thing. We talked about takeoff moment. I think in the concluding, PM again said, go for the big jump. He also said, it's not going to be easy. There will be a large number of challenges. And these challenges are outlined somewhere early on in the meeting itself. We have challenges of climate change, technology like artificial intelligence, which will be disruptive both for businesses as well as for jobs. The world economy is unpredictable. Geopolitics is changing. Within the country, you have regional imbalances, you have income disparities, and demography, if not skilled properly, will not give you the benefit it can give. So he actually said all of that is there. We need to address it with a Team India spirit. I think everybody is aligned in terms of meeting these challenges. And the other point which is very, very clear, his consistent emphasis on two things. There is a global opportunity, you need to catch that, grab it. Second, are you able to raise yourself to global standards? I think that was his plea, that raise your quality, raise your performance to what developed nations do and the way they work. I think that's a very, very key message. If you don't think about it, you will not reach that level. And he said, the whole world is focused on India. And that is very, very important. Use the opportunity for the benefit of the nation and the people. He again re-emphasized the importance of an aspirational and youthful population. He also emphasized the importance of MSMEs, how they need branding, skilling, and marketing. Unity malls, incidentally, were there in the budget. They are coming up in many states. It was discussed, it was mentioned. And he also talked about our ITIs being reviewed, revamped, preparing for new industries. And a very interesting anecdote, you can't train a mechanic today and train them only for IC engines when EVs are coming. You need mechanics to repair your EVs also. Do you have courses? So I think that is an important message. He talked very fondly and emphatically about dignity of labor. We need to respect labor, and that is what will give then quality work. And I think that's something which is very close. He talked about also having goals on health like eliminating TB, going to the grassroots, identifying and do that. And I'd say in his concluding remarks, I think his emphasis was, let us have good governance. And he says, good governance is the key to achieving, be it Viksit Bharat, be achieving any of the items which are there on the themes, be it achieving women's empowerment and development. I think this is very, very important. And I think that was it. And he expressed his gratitude and thanks to all the participants. And meeting finished around 4:30. Thank you. There is another event here, so I've been.
Sir, Tarun Sharma from Z Business. सर आप मीटिंग के अंदर फिस्कल प्रूडेंस को लेकर बात हुई सर, तो क्या ओल्ड पेंशन स्कीम पे चर्चा हुई, और जो फ्रीबीज जो अभी स्टेट्स के अंदर जो चल रहा है एक कल्चर, क्या उस पे भी चर्चा हुई? एक सवाल सर उस पे है, एक एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन एक बड़ा फोकस एरिया है गवर्नमेंट का, उसको लेकर मीटिंग में क्या चर्चा हुई, ये आपसे।
Okay, the PM gave an overarching view, saying that he didn't discuss a particular item, but he hinted at it. He basically said fiscal prudence is essential because you do not want to overburden future generations. I think that's important. So keep that in mind in whatever you do. We need to keep that in mind whenever we plan and announce things. And I think the message was there. There was discussion at multiple points, but I think it was in a very positive atmosphere. Understanding that you need to cut your cloth to suit whatever is there. The other point which you mentioned, which is climate change. Climate change was mentioned as a challenge, and I think that was accepted. Some states did mention about ecology. They're preparing. Some states are planning to be green states. Some states are talking about wanting to be completely green in terms of energy, either solar or hydro. So I think there was a lot of discussion on that. But as we go along, probably that is a subject we'll address more in future.
हेलो सर, नीरज हूँ न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया से। हमारा सवाल ये है कि आपने कहा कि कई मुद्दों पर प्रधानमंत्री का जोर रहा, कई मुद्दों पे चर्चा हुई, कई राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्रियों ने हिस्सा नहीं लिया। हमारा सवाल यह है कि कितने राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्रियों ने हिस्सा नहीं लिया, और जिन राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्री नहीं आए उनके सुझावों को या उन राज्यों में जो एस्पिरेशन होगा उसे कैसे एड्रेस करेंगे, गवर्निंग काउंसिल कैसे एड्रेस किया या करेगा?
ठीक है, बैठक में 11 मुख्यमंत्री नहीं आए, बट कई मुख्यमंत्री आए, और जो मैंने देखा है पुराने नीति आयोग की बैठकों में, गवर्निंग काउंसिल के राज में लगभग इसी प्रकार के अटेंडेंस रहा है। पहले भी कुछ लोग आते हैं, कुछ लोग नहीं आते हैं, उनका अपना कुछ व्यक्तिगत परिस्थितियां हो सकती हैं, लेकिन दो चीज़ें हैं। जो भी कागज़ हमें दिया गया है, कई लोगों के रिटन स्पीचेस हैं हमारे पास, इन सबको हम लोग संज्ञान में लेते हैं, उनको पढ़ा जाता है। सभी को कहा गया बैठक में भी कि आप स्पीच को मत पढ़िए। इसका मतलब क्या है, स्पीच को भी हम पढ़ेंगे और उन्होंने ओरल वक्तव्य जो दिया होगा उसको भी नोट करेंगे, और इसी के बेसिस पॉलिसीज बनती हैं। थैंक यू।
Sir, good evening. Shishir from Hindu Business Line. Sir, you talked about what the center has said. Can you list 3 good practices which state presented during the meeting, and can you give us the name of the state CMs who did not participate in the meeting, sir?
No, I think let's focus on what the Chief Minister said. Now, since you said 3, let me see what I can remember. There was a clear mention of a particular practice in Goa, which is Swayam Purna Goa. Okay, that was discussed, and I think there was even a request to circulate details of that to all other states. So I can mention that. It's top of my head because Goa was the 3rd or 4th states. There were a couple of others, I cannot probably remember. Haryana has a Parivar Pehchan Patra, which was mentioned as a good practice, where they're able to focus a lot of benefits at the family level. I think that was there. Then I'm just trying to see my notes. You asked a very precise question. Just a second. Yes, Meghalaya gave excellent. Thank you, Dr. Chand. Meghalaya gave excellent suggestions on regional zone-based planning, because he says don't treat Northeast as one entity. We have a border with Bangladesh. 2-3 states have a border with Bangladesh. Let's make a regional plan there so that we have a look east policy. But the look east to Bangladesh is different from look east to Burma, and the look east to say Nepal. So have 2-3 states have a joint strategy so that they can plan in that area. Rather, what applies to Arunachal Pradesh may not apply to Meghalaya. So I think that regional zonal plans was a suggestion from Meghalaya. So there was a lot of things, you see, which were coming up. I don't need to list the 11 states which did not come. I can tell you we had Mr. Soren from Jharkhand, we had Mr. Bhupesh Baghel from Chhattisgarh, we had Mr. Sukhwinder Singh from Himachal. So there were a lot of, there's Mr. Jagan Reddy from Andhra Pradesh. So it was a mixed group there.
So my name is Zia, I'm from the Hindustan Times. So you've said that we are in that stage of growth. Now we are on a takeoff mode. So did you identify any specific challenge to sustain growth over the next 25 years so that we don't fall into, sort of middle income trap and all those kind of things?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I guess we are at the point where we recognize that we are at the takeoff point. And as the Prime Minister said, we need to grab the opportunity. We are aware of the challenges. I think the job in front of us now is to crystallize a long-term vision and crystallize a set of activities which will take us down the path, a set of do's and don'ts, because there's nothing which you can prescribe today which is going to be applicable 20 years from now. So what you need is actually guide rails within which the country actually develops. I think you will hear more of that in the next, coming months or the next year or so.
Sir, this is Girish from Mint. Sir, you have explained that the PM emphasized, the spirit of working as Team India in order to achieve this goal. But at the moment, central and state governments prepare their annual budgets totally independently. will there be greater meeting of minds in budget making at central and state levels going forward? Sir?
You've raised a very interesting question because that's exactly what PM had said. I didn't refer to that. That's one of the points he said. He said, I have preponed my budget by a month. It is to give you time so that when you prepare your budgets, you know what you're going to get from Delhi under various schemes or programs. So he said, please utilize that. This is actually a specific point he made. Please take advantage of the fact that I have preponed my budget so that you can prepare your budgets better. When the budgets used to be timed identically, states would actually, we all worked in states, we prepared blind, not knowing what's happening in the government budget. Halfway through the year, we will then modify it based on what's happening in Delhi. Today, and he mentioned it very clearly, please, and he mentioned a second thing. There's another advantage. Get cracking in the first 3 months of the year. April, May, June, you should start actually sanctioning and getting your works off the ground, because once the monsoons hit, you lose 3 months. Whereas if you've actually done the sanctioning and implementation of works in the first 3 months, he said you can sit back and wait for the next 9 months, seeing things actually happening on the ground. Okay, we'll take that as the last question. Anybody?
Sir,
91?
we have 3 more questions, sir.
Okay, fine.
22, then 47, then 91.
Hello, Sir Prashant from Financial Express. My question is, since we are trying to be a developed economy by 2047, so what kind of economic growth, average economic growth that will require to reach that stage, and what kind of investment we are looking at that should happen to reach that goal? And where do we see our economy size by 2047?
Okay, we're not going to put a number right now, but I think the process is on. Niti Aayog, Finance Ministry, all ministries, and from today, states, we will be working towards certain goals. You know the definition of a developed economy, and you can translate that. At 2047, India will be roughly 150 crore people. That's the population. So you can do your math, you know what we will be targeting. And then I think then you work backwards. The potential of the economy is there. We have sustained growth. We have recovered from COVID pretty well. This year we're going to touch anywhere, you know, close to the RBI governor yesterday. So I think the prospects are good. There is a need to work harder, maintain the tempo, and probably accelerate a bit, right?
सर मैं शैलेश यादव हूँ ANI न्यूज़ एजेंसी से। सर जैसा कि विकसित भारत 2047 का विज़न है, इस मीटिंग का एक उद्देश्य भी था, तो जो स्टेट जो है जानबूझकर यहाँ पे नहीं आ रहे हैं इस मीटिंग में, देखा गया है पिछले साल भी, इसके पिछले साल भी नहीं आए, तो इस विज़न पे किसी तरह का कोई फ़र्क पड़ेगा? और दूसरा, इस बैठक में नहीं आने का क्या नुकसान स्टेट्स को होगा जो जानबूझकर नहीं आ रहे हैं, ना किसी तरह का रिप्रेजेंटेशन दे रहे हैं?
देखिए जी, नीति आयोग एक ऐसा मंच है जहाँ पर राज्य और केंद्र साथ मिलके बातचीत कर सकते हैं एक अच्छे माहौल में। नहीं आने से आप वहाँ का डिस्कशन मिस कर जाते हैं, वहाँ की जो रिच थिंकिंग है कमरे में वो मिस कर जाते हैं। ऐसा नहीं है कि किसी को बहिष्कार करेंगे हम लोग या व्हाटएवर, साथ तो काम करेंगे ही। और भारत सरकार योजनाएं बनाती है तो कुछ राज्यों के लोग अंदर रखे और जिन्होंने भाग लिया है उनको नहीं देंगे, ऐसा तो होता नहीं है। लॉस इज those who do not participate, but I don't think that will be the way. We will move together, and we are confident because Niti Aayog has a lot of plans for the future. One of the biggest things we are doing is we have now launched a state support mission. We will be creating Niti type institutions in all the states. We have sanctions in the budget. There is a scheme for that. It's called State Support Mission. And our goal is all the 35 states and union territories in the country should have a Niti type institution to do long-term visioning and planning for that. So that will be done uniformly for everybody, no distinctions. Thank you. Last question.
Sir, Premanshu from ABP. Earlier, Niti Aayog has made a 15 years roadmap, 7 years roadmap, like. So are you going to make a 15 years roadmap now, or is it going to be a state central level joint roadmap?
It's a work in progress, but I think the Prime Minister has given the direction very, very clear. States and districts to have visions, and those visions to be aligned with the central vision, and we share the load in reaching that vision. So I think that makes it very, very clear. Thank you very much.